the mission of Legends and Losers, the startup situation, and at least 10 reasons you should never listen to Legends and Losers again. Oh. All right. Hey, Colin, what did everyone say?
Hey ho, let's go.
Hello, my legendary friends. And as you can tell, we're off to a rip-roaring good time here on, what is this, Matthew?
Legends and Losers. The 100th show.
The 100th episode.
That's right. Holy hell, how did we get here?
Everybody said we wouldn't make it.
Holy
Everybody.
smokes.
All of them said we wouldn't make it. And the first big thing we want to do right off the top is to say a gigantic, massive, heartfelt thank you.
Yes.
And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I coming in, I thought doing this together was going to be very cool and very fun, and that has proven to be true, and even more so. I thought we'd probably do okay on some guests, and that would be cool.
Okay.
And, yeah, well, fuck, we've done pretty okay on some guests.
Okay, eh?
Pretty okay. It's funny. I was interesting you bring that up. I got introduced to a very big ding-dong famous author.
That's one of my favorite words that you use, ding dong.
Why do you like ding-dong?
Well, because it's kind of all-encompassing. Like, you can kind of say it just about for anything, and it's good, right? Like, it's a very ding-dong hotel.
Yeah, and
right?
Hey, we had some Chateau Ding Dong wine. See, and I use it for wine all the time because I'm terrible. I'm dyslexic and just lazy and terrible.
Chateau Ding Dong.
And I don't remember the names of all these fucking wines. And, and I know a little bit about wine, just a very little bit. But and the other thing about wine is it gets so pompous, right? And so it's like, oh yes, we would like the Chateau Neuf Ding Dong, de Lafitte of the Ding Dong. It's like, Jesus, the names are just ridiculous. What do you mean de Lafitte? I don't want the fucking feet wine. What are you talking about?
Foot wine.
So yeah, like we were in Hawaii, right? And so people say, oh, where'd you stay? I say, oh, we stayed at this incredible hotel, Chateau Ding Dong. You don't have to remember the name of anything, because if it's a high-end thing, you see how ding-dong that guy's new car is? Wow.
It's way funnier than just telling him the name of the place where you stayed.
Well, yeah, and if you're a lazy, forgetful, dyslexic slob who forgets all these wonderful things that he gets to go do, it's just a catch-all.
You don't have to remember shit.
Yeah.
And everybody knows what it means right away. And enough said.
Yeah. It's like, wow, that ring you got her is incredibly ding-dong.
That's right. That is the best use of that. Yeah, definitely. For the engagement rings, very ding-dong.
Yeah. And then the next thing you always need to say to a woman with an engagement ring is that causing you any back problems?
Oh, my God. All right.
So, wait, how do we even get there?
I don't know, but we should thank.
We were thanking the ding dong guests. That's what we were saying. We've had some very ding dong guests.
Yes.
And I don't know about you guys, but candidly, I didn't know if we were going to be able to do that. I mean, I just didn't know. From a Rolodex point of view, could we pull it off? But even more than that, who the fuck's going to come on and do this?
Well, apparently a lot of people.
Well, apparently.
Yeah.
And, I know. I was telling you. So I got introduced to this super ding-dong writer. That's what it was. And he's I'll give you the punchline. He's agreed to come on the show, and we're scheduling the dialogue for January. Now, I don't want to say who it is because I don't want to jinx it and fuck shit up. But
right.
There's a very big ding-dong, very well-known writer. And so I get introduced to him by this wonderful guy that I met a little while ago and did a little bit of work with, who happens to know this ding dong writer. And so he introduces us on email. And so I respond back, and I want to impress the ding dong writer. You know, I want him to know that, hey, Legends and Losers isn't just three guys in a basement, you know, picking their nose, looking at each other. And so I started writing him the email, and I said, you know, dear Ding Dong writer, I'm a huge fan of your work. I think your last book was really awesome, which is absolutely the case. I'm incredibly, particularly his last book. And I started to describe who we've had on the show. And I'm writing out names, and I'm giving him the links, the hyperlinks, right? So he could see it. It's like, well, yeah, we've had Stanley McChrystal, 4-star General Stan, as he likes to be called, right, Colin? Right, and we've had a sitting Superior Court Judge, Kelvin Filer. I still can't find a podcast with a sitting Superior Court Judge on it. I mean, maybe there's one out there. I've asked a whole bunch of people, but highly unusual.
Right.
We have had just an unbelievable parade of legendary entrepreneurs and CEOs and venture capitalists and authors. I mean, we've had some of the most important authors. You know, I think Dushka is one of the most important authors in the world. We recently had on Dr. Tina Selig. How good was the Framestorm before you brainstorm?
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah. So anyway, great job on the guests. But here's the one that blows me away the most. I had no way of even imagining what the interaction would be like with our listeners.
Yeah.
They're wonderful people. We love them.
Like, I know it sounds so fucking corny, but we love you. We fucking love you. And you guys know Legends and Losers is a labor of love. You know, this is not like Monetize Central over here.
It's quite the opposite.
Yeah, it's actually been Black Hole Central, just for the record. Like, fucking expensive.
Oh, man.
Especially for the producer. Yeah.
But let's speaking of the audience, I wanted to mention just some of but we basically put a post up in the Facebook group, the Legends and Losers podcast group. If you guys aren't already a member, go join there. But we just asked people like what they felt like in one word after getting done listening to an episode, and the results were really interesting.
Hey, you know what I feel like?
What do you feel like, Christopher?
Whiskey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hate to interrupt you, Matthew, but I'm going to. So here we have the Sullivan's Cove whiskey, small batch, from my dear friend Ramsey Smith. And I'm going to ask Matthew to describe this bottle because he was quite fascinated when he saw it in the studio. But before that, guess when I knew Ramsey?
Okay.
What year?
Back in the day.
Back in the olden days?
No, back in the day. I knew Ramsey back in the day. When did that become an expression? Back in the day.
It's been an expression since back in the day.
No, I think it's actually relatively new. I think back in the day I think maybe it started to pick up momentum about 10 years ago, but I don't remember back in the day.
Well, what about olden days?
Yeah, back in the olden days. But see, back in the day is way better than back in the olden days. Whoa. Because it's sort of like Ding Dong in that you can just say, well, Ramsey and I knew each other back in the day. And
but that would mean like 10 or 15 years ago. Whereas the olden days is more like 50 to 60 years ago.
Oh, so there's a defined time for when back in the day? We can't be having like a biblical conversation and say, well, back in the day when Moses, whatever.
Well, you have to be talking about it's back in the day is relevant to the person's lifetime, to the person you're talking about.
Okay, so if I say Ramsey and I worked together back in the day, how long ago do you think
like
Ramsey?
10, 15, 20 years ago.
Okay, well, that's a 20, that's a wide range. That's a 10-year range on that one. But yeah, no, I got you.
But the olden days is before you were born.
But see, the thing I like about back in the day is back in the day makes it sound like it was awesome because it was back in the day. And
in the day,
you don't have to be Pacific about it at all.
You know that song, Back in the Day?
I recognize the tune. Not.
No idea, Colin. I think
Okay,
you're on your own with that one. So Ramsey,
how about this Sullivan's Cove? Yeah, Ramsey and I worked together at Scient back in the day.
Okay. So it is within your lifetime, we can safely say, because you worked at a company. So this is not, you didn't meet when you were zygotes, which is good to know. All right. So the thing about this is, there's a lot of writing on here. It's first
a
of all,
beautiful,
it's from the Tasmanian distillery. That catches the attention right off the
and
bat.
hey, we have had the Tasmanian devil of Australian marketing on the show, Vaughn O'Connor, one of my favorite people. And he's the guy that got me this incredible, hey ho, let's go.
Hey ho, let's go surfboard. We
love you, Vaughn. And the Vaughn episode, come on. He had his pelvis torn apart by a wave.
You guys hear my sweet tunes?
No, but we could see your head bopping up and down like something weird's going on for you.
You can't hear this? You can't hear that, can you?
Well, just a little bit. But if you play it, YouTube's going to tear us down. So.
Yeah.
All right, so
should I wax poetic about the whiskey again?
Yes, the whiskey.
This is Sullivan's Cove, rare, small batch, American and French oak, double cask, single malt whiskey.
Hold on, slow down. American and French doing what?
Apparently, they were combining oak barrels, American and French oak barrels.
Ooh, they were making
double cask.
Making love.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we're mixing American French, always a good thing. Single malt whiskey.
Yeah. So it's from Tasmania. We love Australia. Hey, you want to know something else about Australia and Legends and Losers?
What?
I was on our analytics page the other day. I would have thought that our number 2 country of audience would be Canada. Just,
Sure.
Canada.
Yeah. Guess not.
Canada?
It's Oz.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, we have more listeners in Australia than we do in Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, which is very, very cool because how much do we love Australians, Colin?
Way love Australians.
Yeah,
lots of time with the Aussies in Fiji.
And Colin's problem in Canada is once he was there and a nice young lady said to him, "Sorry, I'm not that kind of girl."
Yeah, she must have said that like 50 times.
All right, I'm going to open this whiskey. This is the great whiskey, the Ramsey whiskey unveil.
And now every time you say sorry, you think of that story.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, here it comes.
Oh, this sounds so wonderful.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
That's a pretty stiff pour for you, Matthew. Are you gonna be able to?
He's not going to be able to
Here,
walk
hold on.
out of there.
I'll give you a smaller pour.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's try to limit it to just 17 fingers.
Just he's a rookie at this.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, the cool thing is, here we sit drinking Ramsey's whiskey, and I just can't believe the relationships we've developed with the people who are into the show. And so it's just this whole new dimension to my life that I didn't expect, couldn't imagine. It's been so fun. I feel like I have all these new friends,
Oh my God.
And it was really, you and I had a lot of fun doing a bunch of the NetSuite dates, right? Because we got to get out on the road and meet people in Denver and shit who listen to the show.
Yeah, exactly. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, like for example, Brian.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Brian who?
Brian Sheehan.
Yeah, that guy. I love that guy.
Yeah, love that guy. He was fucking awesome. And here's the crazy thing, right? We don't really know each other, but when we met, let me take that back. Here's the truth. We actually do know each other. That's what's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? Because, he listens to the show and we've communicated, various digital ways. And so by the time we get to Denver, we're kind of like bros. No, but that's a crazy thing. And that's something about podcasting that I had no idea about. I mean, you're a veteran. You've experienced this for a while. It's unique to this medium, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, there's really nothing else that gives you that kind of two-way feedback. I mean, guys that have been on the radio for a million years, they experience it when they go out and do events. But before social media came along, they didn't really have any way of even knowing who in the hell was out there listening to them. Like, you definitely couldn't. I mean, maybe you'd know the numbers from Nielsen ratings or something like that. You didn't know who they were. You
You didn't
developed no
communicate
relationship
with
with
them.
people. No, you got fan mail. That was about it. And believe me, you
Fan
don't necessarily want
mail.
to hear from them. It's
Yeah.
very, very different from being able to reach out and somebody give you immediate feedback once an
Yeah,
episode
tweet 'em.
drops on how much they love it.
And interestingly enough, at least in my life, the utility of LinkedIn has gone through the roof because a lot of people who listen to the show or read the book communicate via LinkedIn.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, so you were going to read something.
Yes, some of the reactions, the ways that people feel after they get done listening to an episode: upbeat, jacked, pumped, freaking awesome. That's from Rick White, as he points out. One word can't do it justice. Brian Sheehan says driven and inspired. So we got a lot of kick out of just hearing how people feel after they listen to an episode.
Yeah, the other thing people tell me is they feel like they've gone on some kind of insane magical mystery tour.
Yeah, that is true.
It's funny. We haven't dropped the episode yet, but a couple days ago, we taped an episode with Duncan Davidson from Bullpen Capital. How's that whiskey going down?
Oh, it's good.
It's a flamer, this one. This one's hot. It's coming in hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like almost got a hot, spicy hot on it.
It does.
Yeah. So anyway, I shot this dialogue with Duncan Davidson of Bullpen Capital.
Okay.
And Duncan's a living legend, founder, CEO, taking a couple of companies public, just an amazing guy with an amazing track record. And his whole area of focus right now is Bitcoin.
Okay.
So, we're on the phone for, I don't know, an hour and a half or something, right? And we just go on this magical mystery tour of like Bitcoin and how that's going to change everything, and then back into his career, and then back into investing, and all around and around and around. And then we, chase each other around on category design a little bit. And then we, of course, just meander into places. And when I was done, I was like, oh my God. I mean, first of all, I got thoroughly educated on Bitcoin in a way that I've never have been. So I can't wait, because I think it'll make a difference to a lot of people. But long story longer, I came out of the studio, and Carrie says to me, how was it? And I said, it was classic Legends and Losers.
As in all over the place and chasing was it chasing rabbits down zebra holes?
Yeah, exactly. And it was really smart and really stupid at the same time.
Is that the Legends and Losers formula?
Well, no, that's what people say to me, is I've never experienced something that can be so fucking smart and so fucking stupid at the same time.
Yeah, no, that's funny.
So, Chris, what do you think about Bitcoin? Because have you seen what's happened today, yesterday?
Yeah, it keeps breaking records, does it not?
Yeah, it's going mental. At the moment, it's at 14,390, and it's up 21% since yesterday.
Yeah, so I don't have an opinion as to like, should you buy it or not. I'm not that kind of a guy, so I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going up, but I have no idea, and I don't own any of it, and I'm not a speculative investor, and that's kind of not what I do. But what I learned so much yesterday. My biggest concern on the currency side was there are no fail safes in place, the same way there are for our government regulated financial system. Whether it's we can't have a run on banks, or if the stock market collapses too quickly, the brakes come on, and there's a whole set of things in place designed to make sure shit works, right. And so there's not really that for Bitcoin, has been my concern. And Duncan was the first guy I've ever talked to who at least could communicate to me in a way that alleviated a lot of that. And I think the reason I feel alleviated about it, or at least somewhat less concerned, maybe I could say it that way, is the level of financial interdependence right now around Bitcoin is such that I think it probably makes it less likely, that they just go to fucking zero. I think that's much less of a concern, and maybe I was just completely naive, but I was certainly uneducated, and yeah, so I'm less concerned about a massive devaluation of Bitcoin, and it turns out it's just like any other asset class, and
Yeah.
what's your time horizon? And the part that I just didn't understand was how blockchain is. I mean, I always understood that blockchain is kind of what it's really about, and
Right.
Bitcoin is an application, if you want to think about it that way.
That's right.
So I always understood that, but what I didn't have an appreciation for is how many other applications there are going to be, and B, when you do that, the implications of it. And Duncan lays that shit down, and I can try to synthesize them if you care, but fuck is he smart about this, and he made me a eeny weeny, like half a pinky smart, but a lot smarter than I was. And so I think that's,
Were you alluding to dilution there, Chris?
how do you mean?
Well, in terms of many more applications coming on, more coins, more ICOs.
No, well, yeah, there's all that, and I think that probably all happens, and there's diversity there, and there's, and I assume maybe I'll be curious. I assume category king economics will play out, so there will be a currency that emerges, but we'll see. It'll be interesting. But no, here's the part I really didn't get. So, but when essentially what blockchain allows you to do is to build all sorts of shit on top of it. And so the example that Duncan was using with me was a supply chain example. So when you have IoT connected to blockchain, essentially you know where everything is and what it's doing in your supply chain. And so the level of synchronicity you can have in your supply chain is beyond anything you ever could have imagined before. And when you connect sort of the blockchains, if you will, there's a connection between your supply chain and your financial chain, right? And so different people can get paid at different places along the way, and so there's that piece. And then on top of that, there's what Duncan calls a marketplace that's going to take place. So the simple example he gives is, imagine a smart car in San Francisco looking for a parking place.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an app provider who has some kind of a blockchain app that tells you the instant a space comes available, and is a space broker, whether it's a public space or whether, Matt Johnson owns the space and he's now renting it, a la, sharing economy, blah, blah, all these different models, right? So you can imagine there's an application or set of applications tied to sensors that allow this system to know the space is available. It's available for 2 hours, and that's what you requested it for. And so your smart car automatically figures all that shit out, and then goes, parks, and then you pay for the parking, and it all happens automagically. And the reason that can happen is because the blockchain is underneath all of it, and there is, if you will, seamless integration between the business transactions and handoffs, and the financial transaction that therefore get triggered as a result of that. And I had not understood the dots that far out yet. And I think that's incredible. He also has a theory, and I don't want to go too far into it because I want people to listen to it. And he's gonna do a billion times better job than I'll do. But he's got an incredibly fascinating theory, guys, about where we are in the innovation cycle. And and I won't give it all away, but he essentially says that the next 15 years, we're going to go through I forget his exact term, so you'll excuse me, but we're going to go through a hyper innovation cycle, so much so that 15 years from now, which is, I think I wrote the date down. Is it 2032? Does that sound right? Yeah, that's what I wrote down. I don't know. You'll tell me if it's wrong. But we're going to look back on now, and we're going to think it was fucking Neanderthal.
Wow. Yeah, makes sense. I think about that anytime I hear my my buddy step out of his Jeep Grand Cherokee and it beeps at him. It reminds me that we're in this weird niche of time between when we've started using technology to fuck with ourselves more than actually do things that are productive. So we have reached the limits of what we can do with things like people driving cars. So now but we're not at that point where we have autonomous cars yet. So yeah, we're in an interesting niche of time where all these technologies are kind of in their infancy and they're not quite ready to take over, you know?
What is going on with your fucking cord on your computer there, dude?
It lights up to let us know that it's charging my iPhone.
Oh, no way.
Do you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so Matthew, describe this for people who are not watching on YouTube.
Wow, it looks like a
Yes.
crazy straw in motion.
Yeah, it does.
I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. It looks like it looks like the neon sign for a strip club.
Like a barber pole.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
this is what happens when you go into Best Buy to buy a charging cable for an iPhone and you don't pay attention to what you're buying. You just buy the one that looks like it's right. And then you walk out and plug it in and you're like, what
Disco
the hell did I just
party.
buy?
I have a disco party on my fucking iPhone charger cord.
Yeah, it's like a light.
Here's what I
bulb
love about this. First of all, this
crazy.
is a new category right here. This is brand new information, brand new category. I see before this. Here's the photo. You ready? The from two.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before this,
Boring white
was-
cord.
That's right.
After,
Exciting disco party.
yeah. Why? It's a gigantic problem that you're going through your life with a boring white cord when you could have the
Exciting disco party.
oh fuck. All right, so where were we here on the startup situation?
Situation.
Did we get anywhere on this yet?
Not yet.
No. Okay. So did we want to talk about this?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So some interesting things going on in the startup world, some good, some bad. I'm not really sure how to take this, but so a couple of things that are interestingly connected in the old duder's mind. Easy with the dance party over there, eh, Colin? So there's an article that came out on Vox.com midpoint of the year, I think June, if I remember right, by Timothy Lee. And the headline said, "The End of the Internet Startup." And the argument that he makes essentially is that we haven't had a big new category king since Facebook, which, I mean, we haven't had one at that size, but I mean, we've had Splunk and, you know, we've had a bunch of others that have been pretty big, but nothing at Facebook size. He also says that the technology giants today are a lot smarter than DEC and, you know, the old tech companies. And so they are acquiring new companies in hot new categories in a way that the old guard in the tech industry never did. And then I think the other point that he makes is if the smaller startups stay independent, they have tougher competition. I'm not so sure I believe him on that.
Yeah.
And then the one that is absolutely the case is that consumer tech companies have massive capital requirements, and that spooks people. And so this is why this guy, Tim Lee, says we're seeing a quote unquote end to the internet startup.
War chest was the word I believe was what you had here.
What for starting a consumer tech company?
Why? What did I say?
I don't know, but I love the word war chests.
I didn't say weevils. You need massive weevils.
Massive war chests.
Yeah, war chest is a good word.
Sounds very Game of Thronesy.
Thronesy.
Yeah.
So Thronesy of you.
So Thronesy, bro.
So the next article that's kind of connected to that in my head, this came out just recently in TechCrunch. Headline says, "There's an implosion of early stage VC funding and no one's talking about it." And it's written by this guy named Victor Basta from an outfit called Magister Advisors. And what he's saying is he's got a lot of charts and graphs. It's worth checking out if you want to get into it into some detail. But essentially what he's saying is since 2014, the number of VC rounds in tech companies worldwide has nearly halved. So the number of rounds has been cut in half from 19,000 to 10,000, according to PitchBook. And he says what's going on is that the VCs are not funding early stage companies anymore, and they're doubling down on the emerging category kings in what he calls the quote unquote winner take all leaders. Because as we talked about, and with all due modesty, wrote a best-selling fucking book about category kings take all the economics. But the frightening thing to me about this is that the upside that VCs are seeing in emerging category kings is more than the upside they see, or at least from a risk reward perspective, that when they look at risk reward, they would rather invest in these bigger, higher market cap, higher valuation emerging category kings than they would in early stage companies and kind of swing for the fences. And, you know, I can't remember where I read it or who said it, so you'll forgive me, but, you know, I read recently or heard recently somebody said that Series A is the new Series B, right? Because startups have to scrape and scrounge to get to a place on their own before a lot of these big VCs. And we've been feeling that, but, you know, this guy's got a whole bunch of data that suggests that that's exactly what's going on.
What I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, we already know that the cost of starting a new startup is drastically lower than it was when you were coming up in the business, you know, thanks to technologies like AWS and just everything just getting lower cost in general. So it's easier now to get to that place where you can prove that you have a concept, at least that's viable in some way. Either people are willing to sign on for free, or you can get to the point where you have 1,000 paying customers or something like that relatively easily and prove that the concept exists. You know what I'm saying? It's to me, I look at it very similar to what's happening in the musician community with record labels. The record labels are the same way.
But what percentage of those businesses are actually VC fundable is the real question.
The small startups?
Yeah.
It's a good question. But they're, at least if you believe Victor, the data says that the VCs have all moved to the later stage emerging category kings.
Is that because there's more of those now after having invested so heavily in the early stage startups in the past?
It could be. I mean, you could argue that 5-6 years ago that Series A companies were overfunded. You could argue that with the emergence of all of the incubators and stinkubators and all of that, that you know, it's so funny. I love how shit comes around, right? In the .com back in the day, during the bubble.
Back in the day.
Exactly 10 to 15 years ago.
In the olden days.
There was this whole move to do incubators, right? And then they all blew up in about it felt like a year. It's like 1999 they were born and 2000 they were gone, or maybe, you know, 1999 and a half they were born and 2000 and a half they were gone. And everybody called them stinkubators, and the category was dead. You know, so I've found it funny that, you know, 500 startups and Y Combinator and all of them have, you know, proliferated.
Yeah.
So, you know, it could, you could be onto something in that with the proliferation of all those kinds of guys and all the early stage investing. Now everybody's backed out and they're mid to late stage investing. It could be just a cyclical thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the other piece of interesting data and report that came out recently is from the Kauffman Foundation on the state of entrepreneurship in America, 2017. And just a couple of points I thought were interesting to underscore. Established businesses with fewer than 50 employees make up, take a guess, what percentage of the U.S. Employers? Companies with fewer than 50 employees, existing companies.
Well, I'm cheating because I'm looking at it. Colin, what do you think?
Okay, it's probably like 95.
Okay, well, that would be way high, but it was pretty fucking high. It's 68%. So let's call it 70% of employees in the United States work for companies with 50 or less people. It's a stunning number. And so what Kaufman's saying to us is, after falling with the recession and reaching its lowest point in the last 20 years, just 2 years ago, startup activity rebounded, going up for the second year in a row. So that sounds awesome, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a little less awesome as you keep reading, unfortunately.
Mm.
The recovery of startup activity has been fueled by people entering entrepreneurship out of opportunity rather than necessity, which I find very interesting. I don't know how the fuck you track that, but I see that as a good sign. I mean, I was an entrepreneur out of necessity, but if people are pursuing it because they see an opportunity, I think that's a cool indicator. But here's some of the bad news. While more people are becoming entrepreneurs, startup activity overall is still lower today than it was before the recession. And there are fewer startups with employees today than there were in the past. That is to say, we've got this whole solopreneur thing going on, right?
Yeah, no, not a big surprise there. We've massively disincentivized taking on employees over the last 5 or 8 years.
Well, and the interesting thing, to your point, the jump from 1 person to 2 is gigantic.
Mm-hmm.
And the jump from 2 to 5 feels gigantic. The jump from 1 to 2 feels like a big hurdle for a lot of people.
Talking about, jumping from themselves to employing somebody.
Correct.
Okay.
You know, and it's at the 5-person company that becomes the 50-person company, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think a lot, the solopreneur thing is really, very real.
Mm-hmm.
There's some other interesting data in here that I thought would be kind of cool to shine a little bit of a light on. Surprise, surprise, certain demographic groups are consistently underrepresented in the entrepreneurial economy. And it's leaving major gaps in the market. And minorities own half as many businesses as non-minorities, and their businesses start smaller and stay smaller, minority businesses. These gaps cost the country. So this is interesting. They've quantified the cost of this. In fact, if minorities started and owned businesses at the same rate as non-minorities, the United States would have more than 1 million additional employer businesses and approximately 9.5 million more jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Where is this?
Yeah. I
Where
mean,
is
so, yeah.
Where are we on this?
You lost, Con.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just hang with us, honey.
I didn't get the memo.
Yeah, it's okay. The file's where I told you it was. Another sort of interesting fact, maybe not that surprising, but probably a problem, I would think. 9 out of 10 startups are in a city. And women are half as likely as men to own a business that employs people. Mm-hmm. Half as likely as men. Yeah. And then
here we are. I was here the whole time.
Yeah, you were right there the whole time.
No, I was way ahead of you guys. You guys just finally caught up.
And here's the thing on the discrepancy with women. Kaufman says, though not a new trend, the persistent gender business gap cost the United States an additional 1.7 million businesses. So just like the minorities,
wow.
This is really, there's a real cost to the bias in the system, the ghost in the machine. And then these are a couple other data points I found fascinating. Adults without formal education are much less likely to be entrepreneurs than their educated counterparts. We've heard so much bullshit lately about, hey, don't go to college, fuck it, go be an entrepreneur. Well, at least according to Kaufman, that's sort of not what's happening right now. And then adults without high school degrees make up 11.6% of the population, but only 3.4% of entrepreneurs, which I never would have guessed.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are smart people who have resources. And when you don't have resources, it's sort of hard to start a business.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I did it. but and a lot
Yeah,
of
but you
people
did
do.
something very specific, Chris, and this is something that I wish was talked about more, which is you started a service business. You know, it's very difficult to launch, let's say, a product business.
Oh, yes,
It's
yes.
not that hard to start a service business, but
Yes, and
most
I
people
shouldn't
want
be
to skip
cavalier
over that.
about it. I shouldn't be
Mhm.
cavalier about it. That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
You can start a small service business by hanging out a shingle.
Yes.
You know, if you want to manufacture a new category of tire, you're in a whole other, or, you know, our friend Jeff Denham, who's trying to stop these fires, right? And you've
Right.
created a new technology for firefighting. Like
Yeah.
that requires fucking capital to make that shit go.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
brilliant idea.
Which I think is why a lot of people's first step into entrepreneurship should be a small solo service-based business, because that's where you really build the skills that can lead to doing other bigger things. If you don't have that background and that history of doing that, you know, like if you look back on your own history, if you didn't have the experience of starting Roger Pierce,
Roger Pierce.
yeah,
Roger.
Yeah.
if you didn't have that experience, would you have been able to take on the next step, you know, and go to Vantive and Scient and Mercury? Like, you know, that, like, there was a foundation laid by the chances that you took and the person that you became through the experience of your own service business. I think people try to skip over that and try to start, or they think they have to start a bigger business first. And if they don't take that route, if they start a small service-based business first, they're going to become a different person that then is more equipped to
I mean,
build a bigger business.
Clearly there's all kinds of different paths, but
Mhm.
I agree with what you're saying. It worked for me. I went from a service business to a product business, and
Mhm.
I actually have gone back and forth throughout my whole
Yeah.
until I hung up the gloves. So I do think being in a service business puts you in touch with customers,
Mhm.
and you're not. This is going to sound funny, but in product businesses, certainly in the software business where I grew up, there are people who are afraid to be in front of a customer.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't care who you are in the company. If you're afraid to be in front of a customer, there's something fucking wrong with you. And so, yeah, when you're
Yeah.
in a service business, you know, and my first service business was a paper route, right? And so you realize you got to connect with people and customer service and all that, or it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think if you then, in my case, transition to product businesses, it's way harder to forget, hey, there's a human being that like uses this thing.
Yeah.
And there's like an executive at a company that signed a PO for like $6 million for this shit.
Mhm.
Right. And like that needs to be a good decision for her.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of the same skills of like managing clients, managing expectations, dealing with people, like it all applies. Whether even if you're selling big enterprise software to big companies, it's all just still dealing with people. So having that foundation of serving clients one-on-one still
It
serves
is
you really,
huge.
really well. Yeah. So I think there's definitely something there. But I mean, that really, that the whole, like, the reason that we're talking about this is that it goes to the mission of the show. I mean, it goes to the reason why you started Legends and Losers to begin with.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I went back and I didn't listen to all of it, but I listened to a good chunk of episode 0. And, you know, we've stayed, I think, pretty true to the mission, which is, can we create a platform for dialogue, an authentic dialogue about what it takes to design a legendary life and a legendary business?
Mhm.
And so it's interesting to, you know, 100 shows in, to feel like we're still very much on exactly the same mission. The interesting thing, of course, is as you go forward on said mission, you know, shit opens up and you learn. And so I feel like we've learned a lot about how to have that dialogue.
Mm.
And the other thing, I think, this is going to sound crazy, but Legends and Losers to me almost feels like, you know, a public performance art, in that we're trying to pull off something that hasn't really been pulled off before. And we knew directionally from the beginning where we wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And as we go forward, it gets clearer and clearer what, you know, one of my favorite quotes is the Michelangelo quote. And they asked him how he created his masterpiece, sculpture of David. And he said, oh, it was easy. All I did was remove everything that wasn't David, right?
Right.
And so in that regard, I feel like in public, we are crafting our David, so to speak, right? As corny as that probably sounds like pompous bullshit, um, but the thing that's really cool is the mission is to remain the mission, and it's just gotten clearer and clearer. And I think when it really hit me like a ton of bricks was with Eric Weinmeier.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to see what, I have a note here of what episode that was. And what he said was, the world doesn't need more bullshit.
Yeah.
And it knocked me on my ass. You know, I just wrote a blog post about it. It's really been a harbinger for me, something that's just rattled around in my head, you know, ever since. Where the fuck is it? Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. But that's what he said, and and he was able to articulate, I think, what we're trying to get at, you know, which is for every Kardashian, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You know, and interestingly, we haven't dropped the episode yet, but we shot a dialogue recently with Dan McGinn.
With Kim Kardashian?
Yeah, with Kim. It was awesome.
Well, just her ass. That was really big.
It was Kim and Kanye.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. We drop an episode with Kim Kardashian's ass on the show. Yeah, people wouldn't think we were shitheads for doing that. But then, what the fuck? Who the fuck was I now going to talk about, for the love of God?
We didn't get a first name out of you before we went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, fuck. If it's important, it'll come back. It sounded very important in my head at the time.
It was the Kardashian bit.
The minute you said Kim Kardashian, I got lost.
That's because secretly you're a real fan. That's why.
Yeah, that's what it is. I have a whole thing going on. So one of my favorite quotes was from Tony Chan, who said, "Leaders aren't in the business of creating followers. They're in the business of creating other leaders."
That's great.
And that Tony Chan episode, I've listened to it at least 3 times, and it's a double episode. It's I don't know, it's bordering on 3 hours, right?
Yeah, ridiculously long. But one of the best episodes of any podcast ever. Yeah. And not because I was on it, because I wasn't in that particular case. It was just that Tony was amazing, and that was a great episode. And that's I mean, when you talk about, like, you know, the businesses that don't go from 1 to 2 or 2 to 5, 5 to 10, whatever the case is, like, that's really what it comes down to. Because that requires leadership, and that requires personal development. And, you know, there's just, and we all have points where maybe the business that we want to grow doesn't need to get bigger. We don't always need to get bigger necessarily. I do think there's something to that of, you know, it doesn't always have to chase unlimited growth. But
did you read Yvon Chouinard's book, The Founder of Patagonia?
I flipped around in it. Yeah.
Because he talks about that, and I can't remember what the numbers are because I read it a long time ago, but he essentially makes that point. They're private, first of all, which changes everything. And I don't know what kind of investors and shit they've got, but he says at one point they were growing at whatever level, and the business was redlining and quality and, you know, whatever. They could feel the ship shaking. And he said, we don't have to grow that fast. And so they decided to pull it back to, I can't remember what the number is, but a number that they felt was manageable and they could execute and they could still innovate, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you never hear that in our world, right? You just hear go,
definitely
go,
not
hustle,
in the Silicon
hustle.
Valley world. Yeah. Well, because that doesn't get the investors maximum return, which is a great reason to stay private.
But even outside the Silicon Valley world, in the entrepreneur, you know, porno media world, right? I mean, I was recently on Art of Charm, and then Jordan and I were talking about how asinine hustle. You know, the two entrepreneurial pieces of advice that we hear today are follow your passion,
right, and
hustle.
Yeah.
And they're both fucking insane.
Right.
Right? Because when you follow your passion, you could easily take your passion and turn it into something you hate. Right.
Yes.
Hey, Colin, are you scratching around? What are you doing over there?
Oh, I didn't know you could hear that. I was just fidgeting with my
Quit
cord.
No, are
unzipping
you?
and
Do you
zipping
have
your
like?
fly.
Do you have
Stop
a
that.
mouse that you're?
Oh, I had no idea you could hear that.
Yeah, cut that out, honey.
Oh, sorry. Terrible.
So, follow your passion. Dumb idea. I'm not saying you shouldn't be passionate about your business, but it's your passion's connection to the world. What problem do you solve? Why does that problem matter? Et cetera, right? Just because it's you. Hey, I'm passionate about surfing. Nobody's going to fucking pay me to do anything around surfing. Maybe carry their board to the beach. But like,
well, and that's
and
what.
so,
So I was watching this documentary the other day that would be very, very interesting. It was either called The Minimalists or Minimalism. I don't remember which one, but it was produced by the guy. Like they call themselves The Minimalists, and the documentary is all about that movement, which is very interesting in and of itself. Did you see that?
It's awesome.
It's good.
are these like the tiny house people?
No. They're just ex-corporate world guys that sold most of what they had and moved to Montana, wrote a book about it. Good guys. I like the message. I would consider myself a minimalist. Most of what I own fits into my own vehicle. If I wasn't a musician and played 5 things, I wouldn't have half the stuff I do. But anyway.
Yeah, but hold on.
Yes.
Do you consider yourself a millennial, or what are you?
A millennial. I'm a borderline millennial.
Yeah, you're at the high end.
I'm a curmudgeonly millennial.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
So
I'm a 70-year-old trapped in a 35-year-old's body.
yeah, I get that part.
Yeah,
But so part of the minimal thing is the millennial in you, right?
I think so. Yeah. Goals are different. Yeah. But one of the interesting things that one of their guests, it wasn't them, the 2 guys, it was one of their one of the guests they had on the documentary said something interesting, which is that part of the whole minimalist movement comes from the belief that it's very difficult to control how much you make, but what you do have direct control over is how much you spend. And so if you can reduce the amount that you spend, then right, your quality of living goes up. And what's interesting about it, and this kind of goes to your point, is that you do have control over how much you make. It's directly related to how much value you provide to other human beings in the world. And that's why follow your passion is such bad advice, because your passion might directly lead you into a category no one gives a shit about. They don't get any value out of it. It's
also the exact same reason hustle is insane. Right? Because if you're hustling in an existing market category with the we're better than them strategy, and particularly if there's a category king, at best you're competing for a quarter of the economics. And so it's asinine advice.
Yep.
Asinine. That's a new word. It's asinine.
It's
asinine and insane together. It's asinine, Colin.
It's asinating?
It's asinine advice.
Yeah, Colin, get working on that, on submitting that to the Urban Dictionary. We'll expect that on our desk by tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Asinine. That's great. Oh my God.
Speaking about attacking existing categories and having your ass handed to you, I've been wanting to sort of underscore this one, and I feel terrible about it, but it's emblematic of what happens over and over again. So there's this guy named Andy Rubin, and he's a genius. He's the creator of Android, right?
Yeah.
And so he leaves Google, an incredibly wealthy man, and he decides that he's going to start a new smartphone company called Essential, right? You heard of this thing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a headline from TechCrunch recently. Forbes. Fire sale. Essential phone with 360-degree camera drops below $400, more than half its price 3 months ago.
Ouch.
So they launched the product in, I want to say September. You'll excuse me if I'm a little bit off, but I'm directionally right. And they've just continuously had to drop the price. And they raised $330 million to do this thing. By the way, it looks beautiful. I haven't used it, but I mean, the visuals of it, the reviews of it are very positive.
What's the name?
It's called Essential, the Essential phone. I think the company's called Essential Products. And if you look on their website, Colin, what you'll see is there's a letter from Andy on the front. And he says, so why did I create Essential? Well, my hardware engineers wanted me to talk about how we are bringing real passion and craftsmanship back to the category. And so he goes and has this product conversation, and the reality is they're competing with a we're better than them strategy. And within a few weeks of launching, they've half the price of the product. And I hate to say it because I wish it wasn't true, but this company is not going to be around for very long.
Right.
And the real bummer is when you read Andy's manifesto on the website, which I have, and you start to hear why he wanted to create the company. I mean, I didn't do the work in my head to put it together. There's a point of view there that's meaningfully different. There would have been a way to argue that this was a new type of smartphone. This was I don't know what the right would be, but this was an X smartphone.
Yeah.
But because what he did was say, this is a awesome, new, beautiful, better smartphone with a better camera and a better he's gonna fall into the better trap, and this incredible company and incredible technology is gonna go away.
Yeah. Unfortunate, but true.
Now, you want to hear about a new category that I just discovered?
But how do you make a new category of a cell phone after the iPhone and the Droid?
So I think it would have been possible, and again, I don't have the answer for him because I haven't given it that much thought. But if you read his manifesto, what he says is, we think it's stupid that you should have to buy a new phone every 20 minutes. We think it's stupid that you're locked in. We think it's stupid that you can't connect all like peripheral devices really easily. And so he's got a list of sort of things that from a category design perspective, you could think of as the froms.
Yeah.
And so there's a set of twos in Andy's head.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how they stay.
Well, all they do, he's building a case for the problem, which is what you need to do for category design. So that's the thing. He's taking the first fucking steps, right? He's building the argument, or what you could think of as the point of view that says, hey, listen, this aggression will not stand. These things suck, i.e. those are the froms. But he doesn't articulate his twos.
He goes straight back to the features.
And he goes, yes. And so he's getting crushed.
Yeah.
Right? And if he had been able to synthesize all those froms into a set of twos and then really figure out a category design, and here's a simple example, right?
Where were you? Where were you for all of this?
Well, fuck, I wasn't anywhere. He didn't call. Maybe we should have talked. But I don't know the guy, right? We have some friends in common, but whatever. Yeah, I'm on the island of misfit toys. I mean, I'm in, but I'm not really in, But and he's really in. But the thing about it that's so frustrating is this happens over and over and over again. Legendary technology, truly amazing products. So you think, and I have no doubt he's building a great company. This guy's far from a dummy. I mean, this is as sophisticated an entrepreneur in the technology space as you can probably have. So if you think about the magic, pardon me?
He's very ding dong.
Oh, super ding dong. He probably has a ding dong plane. He's got a lot of ding dong shit in his life. And so if you think about the magic triangle, right? Product, company, and category. So for sure he's got product. Hard to believe he doesn't have a company.
Mm-hmm. None of it matters.
Yeah. Such a bummer. Yeah. And every time it happens, it crushes me.
But Chris, he followed his passion. I don't understand. Why doesn't everything magically work out? He followed his passion. I'm sure he hustled.
Yeah, well.
Maybe he just didn't hustle hard enough.
Not so much.
He was waking up at 4:01 a.m. and not 3:33 a.m.
Yeah,
that's the
wake
problem.
Up early. Don't hit the snooze button.
That's right.
So, hey, there's a new category that I just discovered. It's new to me that I wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to see if you guys knew about this. You ready? Mm-hmm. The category, best I could tell, is magical toilet seat. Okay, so speaking of ding dong, my wife and I were at a very ding dong hotel recently, which we're, very fortunate to be able to do. She's a corporate event planner, and so she does all these high-end ding dong events, which take place by definition, right? So we were at this one in particular. Maybe I'll give the brand shout out. It was the Four Seasons. and we check into our room, do all that stuff, and you go into the bathroom and you immediately notice shit's different about the toilet. Now, have you seen one of these full on with all
the
the
ding dong toilets.
super ding dong toilets, the
Oh yeah,
Chateau
they know you're coming.
Noof
They
ding
get all
dong?
warm for you. The
Yeah,
lights
so
come on. They
exactly. You
greet
go in the
you.
room,
The
the fucking
cocktail gets made.
the thing pops up, right? So the top pops up.
Welcome.
The seat immediately starts to heat up, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
like the minute your butt touches the seat, it's toasty,
Oh, it's so great.
right? And it sort of goes dun 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 dun, dun as it opens, right?
The trumpets.
And then, do you remember what happens at the end, Colin?
Uh, which part? There's so many great parts.
Yeah, well, here's what happens at the end. There's a control panel next to you, and you got some choices that you can make. And the choices are like this: front, light, no, front light, front hard, back light, back hard. Yeah. And that shit works. It's fantastic.
Can you press all 4 buttons at once?
No, see, I thought about that. What if I want like, hey, what if I want front light, back hard at the same time? There's only one, swizzle
Oh,
head that comes
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But the water's fucking hot. Like,
yeah,
well, not hot, warm, just in
yeah,
the right way.
right.
And it makes you feel in a way that you haven't ever quite felt before, if you know what I'm saying.
Wow.
Now,
Were you de-virginized? Is that how you felt?
well, as it relates to sitting on a magical toilet, absolutely. So I'll go with yes.
That's your magic toilet cherry popped.
So I was on slate.com, Matthew, and there's an article from a couple of years ago about this because I didn't know anything about this category. This is new to me. And so the article says the magic toilet, quote, which transforms the act of excretion into a technologically enhanced pleasure ritual.
Pleasure ritual.
I'm not making this up. Slate.com. Now, guess who the category king is in the category of magical toilet seat?
Kohler.
The company's called Toto.
Ta-da!
As in the band, or as in we're not in Kansas anymore. You cannot make this shit up.
Oh
okay, so Toto.
Hey! Can I just share a funny cartoon that I saw? And it was with Dorothy's holding this little basket, and she's got Toto in it. And she goes, "I miss Kansas, Toto," and Toto says, "I miss the rains down in Africa."
All right, that was pretty good.
That's great.
That's
okay,
awesome.
yeah, you get the winning Toto joke for sure. So, but here I got to read you some of this. So, quote, Toto, the leading brand, introduced its washlet. So I'm not sure if the category is magical toilet or washlet. A washlet might be a brand. I'm not 100%. Introduced its washlet in 1982. And by the way, you have got to go to YouTube and type in washlet introduction 1982.
That's awesome.
It is pee or magic toilet seat funny. Anyway. Yeah. Come on. Hey, we're on a roll. So, but here now, the data science. You ready for the data science, Colin?
Yeah, ready.
And it's been estimated that more than 70%, Colin, of Japanese homes now feature a toilet seat with, quote, you ready for this? Enhanced capabilities. See now, Matthew.
70%?
70%.
Wow.
If you had to choose between enhanced capabilities or enhanced interrogations, what would you choose?
The fact that it's a toss-up should say a lot about my the way I look at enhanced capabilities in my toilet.
Yeah, who knew?
Not needed.
Yeah. So now I'm not done with the data science. Are you ready for this? So 70% have one of these things. Only 30% have a dishwasher, Matthew.
That's insane.
And so to quote Slate, and this is a direct quote. You ready, Colin?
I'm ready.
For the Japanese, washing bottoms takes precedent over washing kitchenware.
Oh, man.
That's funny.
I don't understand.
70%. I wonder what the what the growth of that number has been over the last decade, and I wonder if are we just 10 years behind the Japanese in terms of the adoption, or what?
Well, so here, you want to know the truth?
Well, yeah,
We're getting one.
you are.
Oh yeah, yeah. We're getting. You got to get one.
You got to get one.
Oh, you got
Now,
to get one.
is this going in the man can as the experiment first?
Well, so here's the discussion. We might be getting two.
Yeah.
No way. So we all get to sit on one.
Well, when you come over, wouldn't you want to use one?
Hell yeah.
So maybe we might need two. Because
Yeah.
at first we were thinking one, but then
Everyone's gonna want.
this is going to sound terrible. Not that this whole discussion isn't terrible, but if we only have one,
You have none.
then exactly, you need a backup. You saved me from having the conversation. Okay, hey, I got a good one for you. Ready for this one?
Yeah, ready.
Did you know that the founder of Match.com lost his girlfriend to a guy? You ready?
From the website.
She met on Match.com.
No way.
And that's how he knew it was going to go.
No way.
Because he this is from a story on theweek.com.
No.
And yeah, oh yeah, way. What he said was, in the designing of Match.com, it didn't matter what guys wanted. It was all about the women. And he
Right.
said, and so it says, quote, Match founder Gary Kramen says he designed the site with women in mind. And he really knew his venture was a success when his own girlfriend left him for another man she met on Match.
Oh no, that's so terrible.
It's an extremely optimistic way to look at that.
Sad.
Like, finally, now I know my startup's going to go.
Oh, fucking A. And then here's another, this is another new category to me. You ready?
Uh-huh.
Aerial violinist.
Yeah.
Aerial.
What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Is she playing a violin while jumping out of a plane?
Kind of.
Okay.
So if you think about, you know how Lady Gaga and Pink and Cirque du Soleil and shit, they have these long streaming things that come from the ceiling, and they do all this acrobatic gymnastic shit on these two things. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You've seen this shit?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, what that's called. I guess that's called aerial acrobatics. I think that's
exactly what it's called.
Yeah, and I think, by the way, don't misconstrue, to quote Archie Bunker, anything I'm saying. I think it's very, very cool.
It's very.
Could you imagine if we had to do that?
It's very ding dong.
Super. It's athletic ding dong.
It's way ding dong.
So anyway, it's that while playing a violin, and her name is Janice Martin, aerial violinist.
Okay.
And there's videos out there on YouTube of her playing Vivaldi's Summer. And you ready for this, Colin?
Ready.
She plays AC/DC and Led Zeppelin.
No way.
Yeah, way.
That's awesome.
I wonder if we would get torn off.
No, let's pull it up.
I wonder if we'll get, fuck them.
Fuck 'em.
You want to just hear a little bit of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, aerial violinist. Oh, and you'll love this. You ready?
Ready.
Janice is currently, if I understand her website properly, which is janicemartinshow.com.
Uh-huh.
She's currently on an extended run at an outfit in Branson. And the abbreviation is MO. That's Missouri, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's performing these aerial violin shows in Branson, Missouri. I think through to the spring. Yeah. Did you find it?
Mm-mm.
While we're waiting, one of my favorite quotes from Legends and Losers, Will Little: "My next choice will be my best choice."
That's a good one.
What's her last name?
Martin.
There she is.
Did you find her?
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite quotes, Dr. Seelig: "Creativity is our natural state." Okay, here we go. Turn it up.
Oh yeah. Wow. Here, look at this.
And she's like flying around upside down from the ceiling and shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there it is. So what we're watching, she's hanging by these two, what do you call those? Oh no, it looks like one maybe, stringy things. The thing I think is really, and she's wearing this red, I don't know, is that a leotard, would you call that? I don't know what that is.
Wait, she has a whole backup band.
Oh yeah, no, there's a whole band and everything. But if you look, the cool thing is she's got like a very ding dong violin, but it's specially made so that it's like stuck to her head or stuck to her neck. No, that way she can swizzle herself around and shit and not have to hold the violin. Because if she had to hold the violin, the fucking thing would fall, right? So there's some special carbidingulator around her neck and like a spring or a swizzle. Look, it's like a Wonder Woman thing. See the way it's on her arm? Yeah.
Wow. No one else does this.
No, I'm saying this is a new category, aerial violinist.
Yeah. She's a category of one with the backup band.
Yeah, Janice Martin. I think there's a few others out there, but I'll tell you, Janice's website is awesome. Yeah, I love her. She's spectacular. And like seriously plays the violin. There's like quotes from the New York Times and shit on her website. Yeah. Yeah, but she's like swinging around on this thing like she's a member of Cirque du Soleil.
Which do you think came first, the violin or the rope?
If I had to guess, I don't know. We should ask her. Maybe we should have her on the show.
I think she was a violinist looking to distinguish herself, and this is what she came up with.
That's what I think too, because look, I don't know. If you asked me to learn, by the way, hey, I did my first
Or maybe she was a stripper and a violinist. And
oh, no, terrible. Terrible. You had to go there. I went to my first Pilates class today.
Oh, yes, you sure did, didn't you?
No, I did. I was getting bendy with it.
I can't believe you just said that.
Yeah, no, I was. And do you know that my right hip drifts up about half an inch? It's about half an inch higher than my left hip.
That's why you walk with that swagger.
Yeah, maybe, or like Neanderthal man. We're looking at your Free Myself here.
That's the phone.
Yeah, okay, let's get out of here. You know what I'm feeling?
What are you feeling?
Go away here, Colin, so we can have our computers back.
All right, let's see.
Release us from your tractor beam. I'm feeling like it's time for the wrap. So here's the most important thing. Thank you. Yeah. Nat, thank you. Colin, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you.
And man, oh man, if you're still with us an hour and 41 minutes in, has this really been going on that long?
Mm-hmm.
Then, you are a super trooper on Legends and Losers. So
super troopers.
How come are you still taking over my screen? I can't get my computer back for the love of
who, me or Matt?
All of you. Okay, now you release the bees, I think. Okay, pull up the outro, boys.
Pull up the outro, boys.
Yeah. Pull out the outro, boys, and let's kick out of this wave.
Where is it at?
Where is it?
It's in the file. It's in the folder and says
what does it
outro.
Say? What does it say, eh?
It says outro.
Matt, do you see it?
Nope, I don't see it.
I don't see it.
Do I have to email it to you, morons?
Yeah.
You want me to put it in the chat bar?
Yeah.
Remember? Do I really have to do this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just put it in the chat bar.
Free yourself from the chat bar.
I wonder if this is going to work.
Free yourself like I did.
Okay, how come I can't get the chat bar to come up? There it is.
Chat bar. Give me the chat bar.
Let's see if this works. It made a funny noise. I don't know if I can cut and paste into the chat bar. Okay, I'm going to email you guys. How about that? Would that be okay with you guys?
Perfect.
Are you
Yeah.
on Tinder there, young Matthew?
Tinder.
No.
All right, I'm just I'm sending it to you right now. All right, this is going to work out just fine. All right, here we go. And
Refreshing.
refreshing. I didn't bother to put a subject.
No, how dare you?
No. Oh, somebody on Facebook wants to talk to us. We're not on Facebook Live, are we? This hasn't been live, has it?
No.
Oh, thank God. All right, did you get it?
Got it.
All right.
Where? I'm
Email.
gonna. Man.
Email.
Check your email, Colin.
All right.
All right, you ready, Matthew?
Yes, sir.
We would like to thank
HarperCollins, Instant Classic, Play Bigger, How Pirate Streamers and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets.
Equity Directory, connecting startups to the talent and resources they need to build a legendary business.
OneLifeFullyLive.org, the nonprofit helping you dream, plan, and live your best life.
And PursuingResults.com, producers of legendary podcasts, and also this one. Love that.
Bixen 2, helping executives produce legendary results by hacking the future.
One of the top podcasts in the world. Achieve your goals with our friend Hal Elrod and John Bergoff.
Who's next?
I think it's you. Go ahead,
Interview Valet podcast, interview marketing. If you're a thought leader, get your leading thoughts on some podcasts at interviewvalet.com.
That's right. Island Angel Care, professional nannies certified in CPR and first aid, caring for your little angels on Maui at islandangelcare.com.
And you really are the perfect guy to read that about the angels in Maui, aren't you, Matthew?
We love Island Angel Care.
Yeah. Hi, Lorinda.
Hi, Lorinda. Happy Habitat for Happy Humanity.
Habitat for a Happy Humanity. We rebranded them.
Yeah, right. Building new futures.
All right. Tahoe Truckee Homes. Buy a house in Tahoe. Make your mountain dream come true. TahoeTruckeeHomes.com.
Rapid Media, legendary marketing, media, and communications that kicks ass in Australia at rapidmedia.com.au. We would like to remind you that today's information is provided to you solely for informational purposes.
This oddcast is the sole property of the Legends and Losers Oddcast Network, and please share the shit out of it.
Legends and Losers is a produced studio contains nuts program.
And Legends and Losers is never tested on animals.
That's right. Teach entrepreneurship, please.
Keep your eyes on the road and your hands on the wheel.
Listen to Tom Petty.
Introduce two people you love to two podcasts that you love.
It's okay. Go ahead. Pee in your wetsuit.
We love you, Dandy Candy.
Thanks, Mum and Dad, which I'm assuming is aimed at you, Christopher, since I don't call my mom Mum. It's a very Canada thing to do.
And hey, Colin.
Yay.
What do you think about this oddcast?
Most excellent.
It really ties the room together, doesn't it? Our apologies go out to Harvey Weinstein today. Sorry, Harv. We just ran out of time for you. Thank you, my legendary friends, and we'll see you again soon on another episode of
Legends and Losers.